What up, motherfucks? It's your boy, the hater. Back up in this motherfuck after a slight, period of time off, if you will. I was on vacation, and though my plan was to continue making videos while on vacation, I got caught up with having fun, and I forgot, motherfucks, that plus shitty internet made it so it would be impractical for me to post things. Also, I wasn't really watching wrestling while I was gone, so you know your boy when he got back last night. I turned on, I looked at my DVR, my Hulu DVR, and I started watching some wrestling, right? I got a lot of things to catch up on, but as we all know, wrestling is my true love when it comes to TV. So I figured, I haven't watched Raw in quite a while, so I figured the first thing I'll watch before I watch Raw would be AEW, Now, I don't have the nerve to do reviews for shows from 2 weeks ago because I have 2 episodes of AEW that I haven't watched. I watched 1.5 last night. So correct me if anything I say may not be accurate, motherfucks. But I started watching AEW, and it inspired me to do another 25 Reasons Why AEW Sucks Ass video. But that's not this video, motherfuck. That's another video. This video, we're going to talk about something that I saw in one episode, or arguably two episodes of AEW, although in one it wasn't very clear. And that is the introduction of what might be, honestly, the worst wrestler I've ever seen in my life. In this channel, we do exaggerate sometimes, and I will say things like Sami Zayn is the worst wrestler of all time, right? And when I say it, I really do mean it. Like, I really do believe that Sami Zayn is, now he's like a top 5 worst of all time. But for a while, I thought he was the worst. But it wasn't until I saw Brock Anderson that I realized that you could always get worse. It's really as simple as that, motherfucks. It really is as simple as that. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. Hater, who knows? Maybe Brock Anderson will be great. And I suppose that there is a possibility of that being the case. But let's be real, motherfucks. Let's be real. That's not the case, and we all know it, all right? Brock Anderson may be the worst wrestler I've ever seen in my life. I don't care if this guy turns out to have, like, the charisma of John Cena and Hulk Hogan combined and the in-ring ability of fucking, like, Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero and Rob Van Dam and Daniel Bryan, whoever the nerds like now, combined. And if he develops a personality and gets some muscles. As it stands, right now, he is literally the face of nepotism. As a matter of fact, QT Marshall, or QT Marshall right now, which I don't even know why they turned this guy heel. I guess it's just to get over Cody Rhodes some more and to get over these young guys. Because all they do is lose. QT Marshall and his people, all they do is come out and get their ass kicked. They lose like 3 matches in a row, and then they win some bullshit match, like that's meaningless, and then they continue doing the same thing, I mean, QT Marshall and Cody are going to have a strap match, yet another strap match, but whatever. Hopefully QT wins this one because I like QT. In the episode that I saw, QT came out and he kept saying things that are absolute truths, right? He basically pointed at Brock Anderson and he said, "This is nepotism. This guy sucks." He said it in different words, but that was the general idea. The general idea was that while people like Aaron Solo and Camaracho, or whatever the fuck his name is, and David Ogogo, or whatever, is it David? I think it's David Ogogo. Who gives a rat's ass, right? While these guys are being held down systematically by Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes is pushing the people that he likes, like the Leon Ruff guy, not Leon Ruff, but the AEW Leon Ruff. They keep pushing that guy, right? Billy Gunn's sons, you know what I mean? Fucking now Arn Anderson's son. All these people are getting pushes, according to QT, and he's right, and they don't deserve it, right? And QT's argument is very, very sound because the evidence is right before us. It's like you look at these people and you're like, all right, this guy sucks ass, right? So out comes Brock Anderson, right? The son of Arn Anderson. This guy looks like shit, okay? I mean, I hate to judge a book by its cover, and I did, but this guy looked terrible. He comes out wearing shorts and this, like, pink shirt. He looks like, you know those movies, those, like, teen comedies, right? Where there's, like, the popular kids? He's, like, the least popular of the popular kids. You know what I mean? He's, like, the guy that, like the third friend of the quarterback, right? Like the quarterback bully stereotype in high school movies. He's like the third friend, the one that hangs behind, and you always wonder, like, well, this guy doesn't really fit here. He doesn't really look like a jock. He's not like this great-looking guy either. He's not particularly charismatic. He's like the heavy, except he's not even the heavy in this case, right? So this guy comes out, and Cucky, I don't think he says one word. I mean, I was kind of passing out because I was tired from my trip, but Cucky Rhodes puts this guy over to the moon. For no reason. It's like the most disingenuous thing ever. Cody Rhodes basically says, like, if anyone can fill in these great shoes, it's this guy, right? The implication being that this guy is like the next Cody Rhodes, which number one, isn't anything to be proud of. But number two, it's like he's not the next Cody Rhodes. Like, Cody is better than him at everything, you know what I mean? Like, at literally everything. Like, this guy doesn't have one thing above Cody Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes is not fucking Hulk Hogan, right? But Cody Rhodes, nonetheless, puts this guy over as if he's the next Cena, you know? And the big announcement is that it'll be QT, you know, and Aaron Solo versus Cody Rhodes and Brock Anderson, right? Now, here's the thing, right? I assumed automatically when I saw this first episode that the only thing that could happen here is that Brock Anderson hits a spine buster on Cody Rhodes and turns on him and joins QT Marshall. And his role becomes that, like, the guy that's against Cody, but that is similar to Cody in the sense that, like, he also is a third-generation wrestler, et cetera, right? But he sees the light, you know, and he goes with QT Marshall. But that's not what happened, because I made sure to stay up and watch the second episode of AEW to at least watch this match, you know, and I saw it. The match, I'm not going to lie, I skipped around because I got the impression that the match wasn't going to be, like, there wasn't going to be a turn once the match started. And quite frankly, I'm not intrigued by seeing Aaron Solo in a match, nor seeing this guy. The match ends with Brock Anderson doing a jackknife pin and having this shitty father-son moment with Arn Anderson. Arn Anderson comes in the ring and he's like, should we hug, basically? And then they hug. And it's like this shitty thing because I didn't know who the fuck Brock Anderson was a couple weeks ago. And all of a sudden I'm supposed to care about him. His in-ring gear was equally shitty to his normal, like, attire, right? He's wearing this blue diaper, right? Like, his tights were so loose that it looked like he was wearing a diaper. He has this shitty body, right? He's like this, like, he has like a dad bod. Let me see how old this motherfucker is. Let's see. Let's Google Brock Anderson. I mean, I don't even know if we'll find anything about him. I mean, here's an article. What to know about him. We'll give some rat's ass. Anyways, I'll see if I can find any information. But this guy comes out. He's probably like in his 20s. You know, he's definitely in his 20s, right? But he might be like in his early 20s. And he looks like he's like old already somehow. He has that, like, you know, young guy, old guy look. He has zero personality. I mean, this guy had one facial expression. Like, this guy should be like excited to be there or something, right? It's like you're getting an opportunity despite looking like that and having clearly no charisma, you know? And then in the first episode, when QT hits Arn Anderson with a belt and Arn Anderson sells it like he got killed, you know? This guy, like, attacks QT. It looked like shit. Like, his punches looked like shit. The tackle looked like shit. His posture was garbage, right? And this guy, like, doesn't really react. Aside from the fact that he attacked QT, he didn't really react. Like, he didn't really, like, do anything, you know, that, like, would sell him as a character to me. Like, you know, overreacting because his father got attacked, right? Like, if anyone here remembers Brock Lesnar's debut, right? That was an effective, like, physical debut. Like, I guess that maybe he knew off the bat that Brock Lesnar's capacities were not going to be his speaking skills. Not because he can't talk, but just because look at him, like, he doesn't need to talk, right? So Lesnar comes out, attacks a few hardcore jobbers, right? But in the attack, he sells things like Brock Lesnar can only sell things. There's a part where, like, Al Snow, I think it was, jumps from the top turnbuckle or the middle turnbuckle with a hockey stick and hits and breaks his stick over Lesnar's head. Maybe it was Spike Dudley, I don't remember, right? And Lesnar, like, kind of sells it, like, you know, because he got hit with a hockey stick, right? But in selling it, like, he's a little hurt. He also sells, like, this is not going to be enough. And then he just does, like a thrusting clothesline, basically, like a lariat, and just decapitates this guy. I think it was Spike Dudley. And then he powerbombs Spike Dudley 3 times, you know? And he does a little Brock Lesnar thing where he, like, moves his shoulders and flexes, and you're like, holy shit, this guy's fucking intense. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't need to do any of that because he was intense just by looking at him. You're like, who the fuck is this guy, you know? And he's one of those people, like him, Batista, Braun Strowman, Great Khali, where, like, Lashley to some extent, where when you see them, you're like, where the fuck did they find this monster, this freak of nature, right? Brock Anderson is not Brock Lesnar. He's the exact opposite. So this guy needs to sell himself, you know? So one way he could have done it is, let's say he goes insane, right? And starts punching QT Marshall, like, pulling his hair or something, right? Or, like, putting him in an armbar and like not letting go. I don't know, something that shows any kind of personality from this loser, you know? Then he comes out the next week with this blue diaper, you know, looking shitty. Like he does not look like he's strong. Like I'm quite certain. I mean, this guy could be like a monster for all I know. But like if I got into a fight with this guy, I think I'd beat his ass in about a minute. You know what I mean? I certainly would be intimidated. Now, there's like zero chance of that. Like you might beat my ass, but I would not be intimidated at all. Compare this with fucking WrestleMania, Undertaker versus Ric Flair, where Arn Anderson comes in and does the double-A spine buster on Taker. And Arn Anderson's like forearms are gigantic, right? He looks like a proper man. Like he looks like a guy that could beat your ass. You know, I mean, he was like in his probably like early 50s then. So he was still like a capable dude, but it was like believable. Like I don't know who would win in a real fight like at that time, Taker or Arn Anderson, because Arn Anderson looked like a tough motherfucker. He's like a bear. You know, this guy is not a bear. This guy is a jobber, you know? He's out there, he beats Aaron Solo, which really leads you to believe, like, it really elucidates what AEW thinks of Aaron Solo. They think nothing of this guy. This guy is a jobber, you know? Which is fine. But think about what the message here is. The message here is that, like, QT Marshall's speech, which is 100% accurate, is meaningless because at the end of the day, Brock Anderson was able to get the victory. You know? In a fake sport, right? So essentially, like kayfabe-wise, QT Marshall is, you know, unvalidated or invalidated, but unvalidated sounds more like it, right? He hasn't been validated yet because he was proven wrong by the newcomer. But in reality, QT Marshall is 100% right because the question that every viewer should have is, why is this guy getting this push? Why is fucking Brock Anderson getting this push and let's say not Griff Garrison or Brian Pillman, right? Brian Pillman is better than this guy in everything, objectively. So it's like, why is this guy teaming with Cucky Rhodes? The answer is obvious. It's obviously because he's Arn Anderson's son. So the idea behind what QT Marshall said is 100% true. Being the son of somebody is more important in this company than being good. And that is the antithesis of what AEW supposedly stood for, right? The underpinnings of what AEW was supposed to be was that it was a place where you don't get held down. Now, a lot of people focus on the negative part of that. Like, oh, WWE held, Ty Dillinger down because they didn't give him creative freedom. They focus on that. They don't focus on the fact that when you push someone, you're inherently holding someone else down, right? There's only so much TV time. So when you choose to push Brock Anderson, you're obviously holding down Aaron Solo, right? Number one. You're obviously holding down, like, Brian Pillman because he's not getting that spot. So you're holding down other people. At least in WWE, it's primarily about making money. Vince McMahon determines what he believes will make money. You know what I mean? And he's like, all right, I'm going to make money because I think this guy is going to draw, like a lot of fans or sell a lot of shirts. In AEW, it's like, let's forget about the money for a second. Whose son are we going to push this week? Whose son are we going to pity hire? And I'm sure that once in a while, you'll get the child of somebody who happens to be good. Like Randy Orton is the child that, like Randy Orton is better than Bob Orton, obviously. You know what I'm saying? Like by a million times. I honestly think Cody Rhodes overall is better than Dusty Rhodes. At the end of the day, Dusty Rhodes was like a fat guy with polka dots, right? Goldust is definitely better than Dusty Rhodes. I mean, times are different, but, he's better. I would rather watch Cody Rhodes than Dusty Rhodes. I don't want to watch Dusty Rhodes at all. I don't want to watch those old matches. Oh, Harley Race. Who gives a fuck? But sometimes the son is not better, right? Like Mr. Perfect is a perfect example, right? Mr. Perfect is way better than Curtis Axel. But Curtis Axel is about 20,000 times better than Brock Anderson. Brock Anderson is literally the worst wrestler I've ever seen in my life. He doesn't even look the part to be a jobber. Like, as a jobber, this guy is not believable. No personality, no look. He's already balding, right? Generic looking some bitch. No muscles. I didn't see any moves that impressed me. No interesting ring attire. Everything QT said was correct. QT was like, why don't you give him pyro and make him come out of the sky? The implications being that this guy sucks ass. But because he's the son of somebody else, that's important, kind of. Not really. It's like, what does Arn Anderson bring to the table for AEW? Anyways, but because he is who he is, he's going to get this push. And the push has already started. The point I'm trying to make is for all the AEW fanboys out there who think that AEW is some sort of like meritocracy, they're obviously wrong. But Hater, they gave Warhorse a chance. And nobody gives a fuck about Warhorse. Like, Warhorse didn't get the chance that Brock Anderson is getting. And even Warhorse is better than Brock Anderson. Brock Anderson makes fucking Sammy Guevara look like John Cena, and he makes Sami Zayn look like Hulk Hogan. That's how bad this guy is. Like, every wrestling fan should come together and understand and agree that no one wants to see Brock Anderson. You know, maybe he's young, and maybe he has a good career ahead of him if he goes, hits the gym, gets a personality, you know, and starts cutting promos. Anyone, like, if you do those three things well, you have a chance. But as it stands, this guy has zero chance. If he beats Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes on the same night, he will still not have a chance. If he goes to WWE and beats Cena clean and beats Hogan clean, he will still not draw. This guy is already done, as far as I'm concerned. You know, maybe he can go work in the Indies, rebrand himself, because WWE is not going to hire this asshole, right? And that's all I can say. I mean, beyond that, it was shocking. It was shocking, you know? I mean, when I heard it was Brock Anderson, I'm like, all right, Brock is a badass name. You know, maybe he's a badass, right? He's Arn Anderson's son, so maybe he's like this giant, muscular guy, right? This bear-like motherfucker. And then he comes out, and it's fucking, it's like it's Kerwin White. Basically, he's Kerwin White. Remember when Chavo Guerrero was Kerwin White? He's Kerwin White, except without the mediocre physique of Chavo Guerrero, without the wrestling ability of Chavo Guerrero, without the charisma of Chavo Guerrero, without anything that Chavo Guerrero had. And Chavo Guerrero was not good at any of the things I just mentioned. But not except for the ring, I guess. But this guy's fucking Kerwin White, and he's gonna be treated like a star. This guy should be given to fucking what's his face? Lance Archer to squash in 30 seconds. That's what should happen. But anyways, that's it, motherfuckers. That's what I gotta say about this video up in this motherfucker.